All right. إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فالسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا Juan Ying Layth, bienvenidos a todos, people. All right. Bakhair Ragle. Right. Khushamadid and Swagatam, people. What is going on? Ya salam, ya salam. Let me just grab this in front of me. Nowadays, people, what I have to do, honestly, I think I've had to realign the whole webcam, everything, so I think it's still a bit off. But maybe if it is, for next week, I'll have it fixed. Right, now, what is going on here? What is going on, people? Let me just see.
हमारे पास ऑप्शन था.
Right, okay, so I'm just bringing up all right, there's none chat right there. I was checking the YouTube features. So, mi gente, un momento, there it is. Right. YouTube peoples, what is going on? What is going on? Look at this, look at this. So, almost done. I swear, the things I have to do. The things we have to do, people. The things we have to do. Right now. Right, just go into this. Just un momento. I'm just gonna copy this across. And then I'll be taking your questions. There it is. Look at this, man. I feel like an absolute hacker. Right. So there it is. All right. Got you guys there. Look at that. See? Baba Kamal hai Kamal. You see, this is what we're talking about. So, what is going on? Let me bring up some of my Facebook people right here, and I'll just share this. Those of you that have posted some questions, I'll just move this across there. Look at that. Mufti Abu Layth, in case I get disconnected, I have a burning question. Oof. Ya salam. Burn. Let me just can. There you go. Ya salam, ya salam. Let me just share this to my other page, people. Un momentico. Let me just, there it is. All right. And that's done. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Meanwhile, much nahi to kuch nahi. Allah, Allah, Allah. Look at that. Nayab has posted a book. Nayab has thought, you know what? This is the YouTube people right here. So he's thought, well, why not just post a book? Since people are, since we're in a day and age of literacy, why not? All right, so, right, people, check out this. All right, remember to subscribe. All right, subscribe to YouTube, Facebook. Do you like the style? The style, people, the style. Oh, ho, 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 rather. Well, those of you that have subscribed, you're probably aware that I'm releasing clips daily. This is a clip I did want to get it out there. My thoughts on the whole Junaid Hafiz case. It is on YouTube. Do check it out, people. Do check it out. And there's also a new feature now on Facebook where you can become a supporter. You can join the Mufti Caravan, people. You can join it. And it has some perks to it where there's exclusive messages to you guys in an exclusive group. Yeah, yeah, upon ka style hai style. So, with that said, what is going on and what are the thoughts? What's preoccupying the minds? What's preoccupying the minds of the people on Facebook? And what questions? Somebody said, wow, Mufti, now you come on. I'm all, what? I'm all tucked. I'm all tucked in bed. हम समझे कि ये क्या बोल रहे हैं. So, I've got no idea what's going on here. Right, so, let me just see. All right, people, the YouTube is being moderated. We've got a moderator on there. Doing it. Frowdy frubbery. Anybody who's out of line, that I was go hata dijiye. Right, so what is your opinion on evolution theory? So let me come to the questions. What will we be looking at today? Well, I'm going to look at, I wanted to discuss a little about this journey of life. We'll do that later on. Developments, goals, targets, people. We are approaching 2020. Okay, so how has the last decade been? What are our thoughts, our aspirations moving forward? So that's something I'd like to discuss. In addition to that, obviously, the questions you guys are going to pose. But there was also, I'll share my thoughts in the end on the Mufti Masala segment, Mufti Masala, on one, there's a refutation video against me, which, subhanAllah, so I'd like to speak about that later on. And then there's the all-wise. No, we're not talking about the Lord Almighty himself. We're talking about the all-wise on Twitter. Sheikh Asim al Hakim, the Sheikh Allamatul Wahhabiyya. So there's a very interesting clip of his I want to share. Somebody said clean the camera lens. Is the lens, is it? I can try this. Is that better? Yeah. Right, so now Sheikh Asim al Hakim has he's released some fascinating advice, rather, which we have to. It would be from the kaba'ir, from the major sins and the signs of the apocalyptic hour, if we were to not cover it. But that's something at the end in the Masala segment, Masala, the Masala Bay. So, what is going on? What is going on? Frowdy Frubbery said it's clean. All right, Frowdy Frubbery, you're doing it. Right, so, what shall we take some questions? Right, people, those of you that are familiar, by the way, the whole CAA thing in India. So the revolution, whoa, viva la revolución, people. The revolution will not be televised. So, those of you who are familiar are...
कि नफरतों का असर देखो, जानवरों का बंटवारा हो गया। नफरतों का असर देखो, जानवरों का बंटवारा हो गया। गाय हिंदू हो गई और बकरा मुसलमान हो गया। ये पेड़, ये पत्ते, ये शाखें भी परेशान हो जाएं अगर परिंदे भी हिंदू और मुसलमान हो जाएं। सूखे मेवे भी ये देखकर हैरान हो गए, न जाने कब नारियल हिंदू और खजूर मुसलमान हो गए।
It is so true, though. Is it not true? The way people divide everything into religion. It's worryingly true. So I love what Jaffrey had to say there. That was amazing. Those of you that don't know him, he's a Bollywood star, but he's incredibly eloquent in the Urdu language. And he's also a keen supporter of this CAA, the whole revolution going on in India, the whole movement. He's been part of the protests. So, somebody said Mufti in HD. Hi yaar, Mufti in HD. Aapke liye. At your service. So, what else is going on? Let's take some questions, people. That poem is so good. Indeed it is. Indeed it is. What's the link for Tang poem? Tang. I don't know what Tang, which poem Tang poem is. Yar Salam Mufti, do you have any advice for filmmakers, fiqh-wise, dealing with men, women and... ये कौन सी फिल्में हैं यार? What films are these guys making? If it's those kind of films, but how can we how can we advise? How can we advise? What could be the... Right, I'm trying to take some questions here. Is it possible to ruin your own destiny? Okay, let's take a look at that question. Is it possible to ruin your own destiny? The answer is of course. It is. You see, the way destiny works, people, the way it works is you don't know what it is until it's happened. Okay? So destiny rewrites itself all along, depending on the choices you're making and taking. So think of it as a computer game, okay, a video game where you are playing the game, but no matter where you arrive in that game, it must have been designed as an option. You can't completely redesign the game whilst playing it. So it's a bit like that. So Allah, with his supreme knowledge, knows the choices of people, but he does not compel them. And I think the closest understanding we can have in this day and age, which is a step, it is a step ahead of the scholars who went before us in the past. And that is due to quantum physics. Those of you that I would really encourage you all to learn about quantum physics. It's not as complex as you're imagining. I mean, it is complicated. It is complicated, but there's many simplified videos out there. There's many kind of made easy, bite-size video presentations, media presentations. You can pick up the gist of it, and it is amazing. Now, in quantum physics, you have this thing called the quantum eraser effect. and you can see the experiment on YouTube. It's been done. Now, that is the closest thing that we have in practicality to demonstrate destiny. Allah. You see, the quantum world, people, when being observed, collapses. And I feel that the quantum world is like the coding that Allah has placed within reality. So it's like the coding taking place. So it's mind-blowing. You must learn about it. Okay, so somebody said it's physics that is quantum. No, it's quantum physics. It doesn't mean it's physics that is quantum, but it's just the quantized world, okay? So it behaves very different to the world of our world, the quantum world does. So for example, in the quantum world, something can be in two places at once. That is completely against Aristotelian logic. So, but yet it's an absolute reality based in the quantum world. So yeah. Mufti Abu Layth, what do you think? Lamun Jen is asking, what do you think about the debate of Nadir Ahmed and apostate prophet? I haven't watched that debate. If you send it to me, Lamun, if you message that to me, I'll check it out. I haven't seen the debate. I do feel that generally, I don't know what the topic was about, but I got into quantum physics from your talks. All right, Sarah Banara. Well, awesome. Trust me, you will only be grateful. And plus, it's your own learning. People, this is you. This is your development. How is it possible? Tell me, how is it possible that we are in a day and age where people will not invest in themselves? Look, I'm all for investing in the apparent. If a person wants to, they want to look good, they want to do things, fine. There's nothing wrong in that. The hadith states, Inna Allaha jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. But, people, insan is insan, you know, bil aql, okay, with our voice of reason, with our intellect, with our intelligence, we are human beings. So invest some time in developing that side of yourself. I mean, it's amazing how shallow so many people are. I've said this before. I actually struggle to I actually struggle sometimes to find commonalities with people when I'm chatting to them. Like, this is people if I don't know them. Because you realize that most people, I mean, because one, I'm not into sports, as in I go to the gym and stuff, but I'm not into, like, I don't watch sports. I find that boring. So, because I'm not into football, I'm not into cricket, I'm not into these things, so I can't talk about that. I wouldn't know anything about I'm not that much into general music, so I don't know much about that. Wait a minute, I just realized I'm the Jahil. It just dawned on me right now that, wait a minute, I'm the actual ignorant one here. So, but I realized that most people don't have any deeper interests in life. The only thing I can probably talk about is movies or TV series or things like that. That's it. And because, you know, for a lot of people, this may be a bite size of something fascinating and people go, oh, but then it's just too much for them. Sunshine Group. See, this is why, you know, people like Freud, when he said that most people are just trash, people said elitist. So, what is going on? What is going on? Somebody said, can we do a sha'ir, a shairi segment? I shared a poem today. Let me discuss it briefly. I shared it on Instagram with a photograph. So I've taken a picture and then I put a poem there. I found it amazing, this poem. It's a classic, you know, from the classic era. So if you're into shairi, you want to go into like the 1800s of Urdu, because that's when Urdu is being really concretized and it's being cemented, and so that's when it's all happening, basically. So at the time, this poet, who's known as Nasim Lucknowi, but his actual name is Pandit Pandit Daya Shankar. See, people get surprised. They think, huh? Hindu? Of course. This goes right back to our point earlier on. People, languages, culture, you know, these kind of things have nothing to do with religion. It's us, through our naivety, that kind of box them into religion. Okay, so he has this poem. He says in it that laye us but ko iltija karke, laye us but ko iltija karke, kufr toota khuda khuda karke. Allah, 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 people. That is a profound poem. That laye us but ko, but is an idol, a statue. And here it can represent an actual statue, obviously. That's not what they mean by it, though. They would mean something metaphorical. And it could be personalized. Whatever demons, whatever this great fear, this great anxiety is, laye us butko, we brought it here. So he's saying this idol, which represents, symbolizes kufr, we brought it into our own sanctuary. Laye us butko iltija karke. And it wasn't easy getting hold of it. Iltija is to plead, to plead. Right, so really we had to beg. It was a difficult, arduous task to get hold of this idol, this demon, this anxiety, and bring it into our safe sanctuary. Kufr toota khuda khuda karke. That by bringing this idol home, kufr itself shattered into pieces, and as it shattered, it cried out, Khuda, Khuda, that God, Lord of mercy, that kufr itself screamed the name of the Lord Almighty. And in this, you can see one layer of it that I understand is that sometimes you, at an ideas level, you may approach ideas that may be daunting, scary, intimidating, but by bringing these in, you see that it actually reflects the majesty of Allah, of God Himself. So it's a bit like, I believe it was Francis Bacon who said that a little bit of science pushes a person into disbelief, that into atheism, into disbelief. But a lot of science, he said, plunges him right back into faith. And it's, so I do, this is the kind of message that I see echoing here from Pandit Daya Shankar, aka Nasim Lucknowi, in this poem. I found it amazing. I thought it's definitely worth sharing. somebody asked, what is this? Are you also a fan of Aziz Mia? I am. Who isn't a fan of Aziz Mia? Aziz Mia was a legend. Undeniably, people, he was a legend. He has this epic line in one of his qawwali where he says, Allah ki inayat hai ke main saif zaba hoon. That he says that it is by the grace of God that I have a tongue like a sword, meaning I'm very sharp and abrupt in what I say. That nasih mein tere vaste kohe gira hoon. That nasih, for you I am quite sorry. If that nasih for you I am right, okay, sorry, I was just looking at something being sent by the admin. Right, so he says, Nasih mein tere vaste kohe gira hoon, that for you, Nasih, the one pretending to be pious, I am a calamity, in other words. That is, and he goes on to say, Tanqeed mein ta'mir thi, is vaste mein chup tha. That because the criticism was constructive. So tanqeed is criticism, like in Arabic, and ta'mir is construction, as in Arabic as well. So tanqeed mein ta'mir thi, is vaste mein chup tha, varna ye samajh le ke main Aziz Mia hu. Wah, Aziz Mia ji, wah. Now, right, so let's move on. Somebody has asked, what's your take on the 10 Qira'at? Okay. The 10 Qira'at are, this is something I would actually like to talk about in more detail in one of the coming sessions. I'd like to actually dedicate a detailed entire segment to this. But I personally find myself with scholars, great scholars, in the company of great scholars like Ali Bakr ibn Arabi of the past, the great Spanish Muslim judge and scholar, and Maliki faqih, Maliki scholar, who has, in fact, this book right behind me is his. This book right behind me. This is called Al-Masalik, and it's a commentary on the Muwatta. That's his, amongst a few others up there as well. Now, so he highlights in one of his books that really these 10 Qira'at like this are not, this is all, this is not what people think it is. The Quran is simply just one, but the Rasm just allows people to be able to read it in slightly different ways. And people have done that. And it's had that flexibility, that's all. This thing of the 10 Qira'at that people have made, or more popularly, it's the 7. This was actually popularized by Ibn Mujahid initially, who popularizes the 7. But there were other people. I mean, there was people going as far back as you've got Qasim, you've got Abu Ubaid, who had highlighted, I believe, about 20 different qira'at. Tabari had done a similar thing, about 20 odd different qira'at. You've got other people that have come along that have highlighted up to 50 even qira'at. Not that many people paid attention to them, but they highlighted these. Now, what seems to happen is definitely post Abu Amr ad-Dani in his book. He has 2 books on Qira'at. In one, he doesn't really go into much detail. In the other, he does. he seems to push this, that the 7 eponymous 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 is when something is named after someone. So these eponymous qira'at, so like I suppose the Maliki, the madhabs are eponymous in the sense they're named after the imams, and that's how we know them today as Maliki, Hanafi, Hanbali. So these qira'at known as Asim, for example, known as, so the generally you will get them as Nafi'. That's one of the major qira'at. You'll have Ibn Kathir, you'll have Ibn Amir, you'll have Abu Amr ibn al-Ala in Basra. So these are, that was in Medina, Nafi'. You have Ibn Kathir in Mecca, you have Ibn Amir in Damascus, Abu Amr ibn al-Ala in, you have him in Basra. Then you have this Asim, you have in Kufa, you have 3 from Kufa. So you have Hamza and also Kisa'i. So now these are the 7 eponymous qira'at, and then you have two people transmitting from each one of these. So it turns into 14, but this became known as the 2 Rawi canon. Okay, the principle or the law that we need 2 people to transmit from these Rawis. So hence people will say, like, so from Nafi' you will have Warsh and Qalun, for example. From so like that, you have different you get these people who are transmitting from these different Qurra. But is this like, as in, is this just coincidental and a system that Muslims just came up with, or was this the divine way? Now, I don't really buy into that this was the divine way, or this was the 7 ahruf which Allah revealed, you know, the hadith that Allah revealed the Quran on 7 ahruf. First of all, that hadith isn't even sahih. Secondly, this is nonsense to say that, because it's only with Ibn Mujahid that these 7 became popular. But otherwise, other people had said they were, you know, many more than 7. And hence, I believe Jazari highlights the 10. He brings the 10. But in my understanding, I go with people like Qadi Abu Bakr ibn Arabi that, look, the Quran was written in a certain way that allowed some flexibility. The way some people read it was just, you know, it was just their ijtihad and their attempt and the way they were taught or they assumed. It may have been any or all of these factors. So with some people it was the way they were taught. In other people it may have been that it was ijtihad. Now so it may be that they are, the way, a good analogy is like how you have text message language. So imagine now there are no vowels in English and people only write in text message language. Now the context will make certain things be absolutely clear, but there may be certain situations where either word will still make sense. So, I mean, if you, obviously text messages are brief, but imagine it was a whole book, like the way the Quran is. So, in that sense, like, let's say somebody wrote WT as what? Now, let's say they also wrote WT as with. Now, you may say, well, they'll say, you know, WTH maybe as with. But then WTH could mean like, what the hell? So now you would say, yes, but I would be able to tell by the context. Now that's fine, but there may be a certain point where both actually fit in and they both make sense. So it's a bit like that. I mean, that's a poor analogy, I accept that, but it's an analogy where I'm giving you some frame of reference so it can make some sense. Now, that's what it was. So they have the rasam of the Quran, which allows certain variations. Now, all of this that you have, these 10, whether it's 20, whether it's 25, whether it's 7, these are all variations of the same one transmission of the Quran. These are not the 7, okay, that people say. That's in my understanding. That's what people like Qadi Abu Bakr ibn Arabi highlight, and I find myself in line with that. But I will like to, and this is, I believe, also somebody asked about Javed Ghamidi Saab. I believe this is also his opinion, and this is what he has said, or he said something along these lines. Maybe not exactly how I just said it, but yeah. So I hope that makes some sense. I will like to, in the future, give a whole, dedicate an entire discussion to it. But it is complex, it is confusing. I understand that. It's also freaky, scares people out. I get that as well. So, I mean, it's something that has to be handled tactfully and comprehensively at the same time. Cool. So, move on. Somebody asked, what is your opinion on Javed Ghamidi Saab? I have an excellent opinion of Javed Ghamidi Saab, Allama Javed Ghamidi Saab. I have made contact with him through his assistant, and I am hoping in this new year, inshallah, with the coming weeks and maybe months, to be able to have a dialogue with him online as part of my podcast show, which is to be aired and released, people, and to be unleashed, shall I say? Right, so that's called people. Drum roll. That is called Mind Trap with Mufti Abu Layth. So watch out for that. It'll be coming soon, inshallah. But in that, I will hopefully, I've spoken to Javed Ghamidi Saab, and he's more than happy to participate. So yeah, now I have a very high opinion of him. I think he's an amazing individual. He's a testimony. To me, he's a testimony that Pakistan can produce people like that. That is amazing to me. Right, so right, somebody asked about Karbala. I mean, I have covered these things before on Karbala. You see, the whole Sunni Shia thing, to me, as a person, it's political. Okay, now people may not agree with that, but that's, to me, how I see it. I obviously do side with, and I am openly, no secret about it, I am Sunni. I do recognize the greatness of all the companions of the Prophet, and I do, many that are more exalted than others, and I do consider Muawiyah radiallahu anh to be a great companion of the Prophet. Yeah, I don't consider, I'm not saying that makes these people faultless, but I just feel that it is a slippery slope, the whole thing. And I've got a more detailed clip on can we criticize the companions, so I go into that in a lot of detail there, and I do explain that it's not that I as a person I'm scared or I shy away from things like that, but it's just that I feel, what is the benefit? So I don't really see it, and I think history, what's happened has happened. So, me saying something or having an opinion doesn't change history. It doesn't. So I don't think, I don't glorify, so for example, or try to say that none of those people ever made mistakes. I'm sure they did. They were human beings. And definitely things like the Bani Umayyad dynasty had, great tyrannical tyrannical kind of features to it. There's no denying to that. But then again, so did the Abbasids, so did the Shia dynasty, the Fatimids, and so did they all seem to, it's politics, people. That's all it is. Rajniti. Right, so my views on Muawiyah are that I do very respectable. My views are very respectable and venerating towards him. I do feel that he was a great companion, regardless. I mean, and that's not to say he was better than all, so many others, but it's still to say he was a companion of the Prophet. Yazid, obviously, my views ain't that great towards Yazid, but I don't call him, I don't call him a kafir. I do believe he was a tyrant, but so were many of the rulers back then. There's nothing, and I don't personally, I'm not convinced that he instructed the killing of Hussein radiallahu an, although I believe, my personal belief is that I don't think he was that bothered by it either. So I mean, that, I definitely don't think he was a great guy or anything like this. I don't think of him positively, if anything, negatively, but I don't call him a kafir and stuff like that, and I don't obsess over him. Like, to me, what's happened has happened. Me, I don't know, like, going over it doesn't really change anything, and it is what it is. So, yeah. Okay, cool. Right, now, Mufti is the black dog, shaitan. It's the black dog, shaitan. Of course not. Of course not. Look, these things you have to understand. In the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were certain dogs that got infected, and most likely it was rabies. Now, so you see that the Prophet started to warn against them, and the rhetoric of the time was a religious rhetoric. So the Prophet did say things like he wanted to distance the people from from these dogs. So he mentioned that, if a dog is in your house, then it's, the angels won't come in, or it will be like you're losing reward. And so people start to distance themselves. And then he said that if a dog drinks from a bowl, or it licks that bowl, then you need to wash it 7 times, and 1 time with soil. That إذا ولغ الكلب في إناء أحدكم, that's a very famous hadith. It's in all the major books of hadith, all the 6, and that إذا ولغ الكلب في إناء أحدكم, that فليغسله 7 مرات. And then in one it mentions that والثامن بالتراب, that an 8th time with soil. Now, what's interesting is even today we find that soil can actually kill, the microbes it contains will kill off things like rabies. So that's interesting. Now, so the Prophet is laying down these measures as safeguarding. Then he says things like that if you see this dog that is like this, is explaining it, it's this dark dog, and its eyes look in a certain, like, very fiery, and they look like this, that is a dangerous dog, and beware of that. And in some narrations he'll say, if that passes your salah is broken, because you need to move from there. That's what it is. So, and then in some narrations that kill that dog, because that dog, if a dog with rabies infects a person, even in this day and age, if they don't receive immediate treatment, like if they leave it a couple of days, it is fatal even in this day and age. You can't do anything about it. So, And that's with all the technology we've got today. So this is what all this was. It wasn't that the Prophet was saying, oh, black dogs are devils or things like this. So we need to fit everything in a context. Right. Mufti Saab, what is your view on the destruction of Jannatul Baqi? Funny Sheikh al-Bakri. I don't know who that Sheikh al-Bakri is. Right, Jannatul Baqi is the graveyard that is opposite the Prophet's mosque. When you're saying my view on it, I'm not sure what that means. What is my view on a graveyard? Unless you mean by that the fact that it was, we mean by that it was kind of like raised to the ground, all the tombs and things like that. Is that what we mean? Or I'm not sure what that means. I personally think it's a shame that I don't support personally the fact that, you know, building shrines on top of graves. I think it just leads to superstition and it's very unhealthy. That said, I do believe that they should have made nice graves and they should have, you know, they should have labeled them so we know where these people are buried. Today we don't know now, you know, apart from some people know because they've kept a map going from, you know, the ancients, but otherwise we don't know, you know. There's all these great people buried there and now we've got no idea. It's a tragedy in that sense. Somebody said Mufti Abu Layth, is a nikah contract with neither wali or witnesses valid? It can be valid according to the school of Medina, according to Imam Malik's madhab. I would say that madhab said is that what's necessary for a nikah is an announcement. So they didn't really go with the two witnesses, they said an announcement. And if a couple get married without any witnesses, then before they consummate the marriage, as in before they before they get to the hanky-panky, right, that they announce it. And in this day and age, I mean, announcing is really letting people know, like, so yeah, so I mean, I feel that that would still be valid, although I do feel that nikah should be, if people are doing nikah, they should kind of do it properly. I'm not really down with the kind of very, you know, the whole secret kind of thing and stuff like this. I feel that people should be on clear terms, especially more than anything with one another. And, you know, people around, it's okay, even if people want to keep something low and private, that's their own business. You know, who are we to tell somebody how to live their lives? But I just feel that there should be some kind of, it should be a leveled understanding between the people. That's my thoughts on it. So, because you do get this, you know, where people will do things like have a very low-key nikah and the guy just wants to, like, you know, they'll do things like do a nikah only with the intention to divorce. And I think if you're going to do that, then I genuinely think that you should, this is why I've said in the past that mut'a is not haram, okay? But I feel that if you're going to do that, then just have it clear, you know, have a clear understanding that this is what we're doing. Like, don't mislead other people, that's all. So, because I think then what happens is, it would cause, if a guy did that to a girl, then, and I'm not saying it can't happen the other way as well, it can, but more often it's this way, then it will lead to a lot of hurt, but two, it will then shatter her trust in future relationships. So I just feel that that's, you know, all that just for this guy trying to be greedy. Now, there's nothing wrong in pursuing your own interests and pleasures, but just level out with it. Just say that, look, this is what I'm, you know, what do you say, you know, these are my thoughts. So yeah, Right, somebody's asking, do you even lift, bro? I've just got back into it now, so it's been only, what has it been? Probably about just under 2 weeks now, probably about 10 days. Not even 10, not even 10 days really. It's been about, yeah, just over a week. So I've been proper back into it. Oh. Sergeant Rocket is asking, Rocket? Rocket in my pocket? He's asking that, right, he's asking, what do I think of engineer Ali Mirza of Pakistan? Right, so I don't know what to think of him. I've seen some of his clips. I think from as far as Pakistan is concerned, he's definitely, you know, he's somebody that is much more open-minded than most Maulanas and kind of mullahs that you'll find in Pakistan. So, and he does seem to be well-read. You know, he seems to definitely a scholar of, you know, of great caliber. But I do feel that obviously he's not going to be as open-minded as, you know, as people here. And that's just because he's still from Pakistan ultimately. So he's still gonna, even though he will say, I don't have prejudices and I don't have my biases, but of course he will. I mean, some people can argue that about me. They can say, well, you know, I've got my biases, my prejudices, and I'm sure we all have as people. But I would feel that in the West, we still, maybe because of the way objectivity is kind of taught in universities and the way it's such a big thing here, that we are probably slightly more aware of certain prejudices and biases than many people in different parts of the world. But that's not to be dismissive of people from that part of the world. But I'm just saying that I think it does depend on your culture. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. So, what is going on, people? Right. Yes, Ali Khan, Hassan Sabah. Oh, Hassan Sabah of the Hashasheen. Hassan Sabah was the person, people, pioneer of the movement of the Hashasheen, the assassins. Those that scary people. They reigned terror for over a century. Zalim log, oof. Zalim dunya, papi sansar, people. These guys, they you know, the sheikh, what he would do is he would kind of drug them up with these opiates, you know, some kind of drugs, psychedelic drugs, and then they'd wake up surrounded by beautiful women and hi. And obviously they would be in Jannah. So then he would tell them that, look, then when they wake up, they'd be back. You know, the trip's over. Obviously, they would have enjoyed themselves. But then they're like, well, what do we, you know, how do we get back there? So he would say that the way to get back there now, the thing between you and that is death. So you must traverse. Allah. So these guys had a death wish. They actually, you know, that's what they were. They had a death wish. And they would carry out some of the most severe and the craziest kind of assassinations. And they became known as the Hashasheen because of the opiates in what is, you know, it wasn't actually hashish, which is marijuana, that they were being, but like this, you get the term from before, Hashasheen, these kind of herbs, like hashish that have opiates. And they killed many people. They killed Nizam al-Mulk. Those of you that know who Nizam al-Mulk is, he was an incredibly powerful person. In fact, arguably, some people say the Dars-e-Nizami dates back to Nizam al-Mulk. He kind of organized and structured the whole movement in the Abbasid era under those kind of Seljuk caliphs, and he set up the madrasa system and promoted madrasas, but he was killed by the Hashasheen. So, in other words, bari kutti cheese. These guys, they were ruthless. You know, the sultans used to fear them. Seriously, there's famous stories of where the sultan would wake up, or he'd be going to sleep, and they'd find a dagger in his bed. Oh, those guys, that's the time where you think, okay, I think these games have got out of hand now. Right, so they would find a dagger in their bed, and that's not a euphemism. You know, when it's is that something in your pocket, or are you just glad to see me? They'd say, nope, Your Honor, Your Excellency, this is actually a dagger in my pocket. So, yeah, so, and there would often be a note, and it would say that, you know, it would state that if this could reach your bed, it can reach your back. Oof, people. Right, so, what is going on, man? What is going on? This one is having an earring haram. Right, no, having an earring is not haram, and you can watch my detailed clip on YouTube. And the clip I'm going to play later on, one of some newly found hater has made a refutation video against me. All right, that's one of the things he picks up on, that it's a clear sign that I'm as deviant as the devil is that I've got an earring. Little do they know that Imam Malik wore an earring. Right, so, all right, people, we've got some super chat from Ali saying, say, oh, Wabio. Oh, bro. That's a rather endearing term for our Wahhabi brethren. You know, our Wahhabi brethren. People, oh, Lord have mercy, Lord. You know, in Mirpuri, they say, Mirpuri. There was actually a joke that I'd come across. It's in Mirpuri, but I mean, I could do it in Urdu, but it wouldn't really have the same. It wouldn't have the same kind of element to it. It wouldn't be in its element. But it's basically that some guy, he goes to a Pir Sahib. So he has a munj. Those of you that know what a munj is a bens. It's a buffalo. Okay, those much larger than cows, people, and you all know what buffaloes are, but the ones that are in India, Pakistan, so they're a different type. So rather than the American buffaloes, so these are like these big black kind of heavy beasts, really. So he has this munj, and that's people in Pakistan, they usually drink milk from that. So it's not usually cows, it's usually buffalo milk that is drunk. So he goes to some Pir Sahib, and he says, Pir Sahib, he says, Sari munj bimar hoi gayi. That my munj is ill, like you need to help me. Like do something. So this Pir Sahib, he really rates him. Yeah. So the Pir Sahib says, Koni tika, don't worry. Dam kar san dam. You know, I've got. So the Pir Sahib is doing all this dam, and it's been days, it's been weeks, you know, maybe even months, and you know, nothing. So this person stumbles across a different kind of religious guy, some other sheikh, and he says, Sheikh Sahab, he says, he tells him the same story, and he says, Sheikh Sahab, koi dua hi kari sharo, you know, say some dua, say something for me. And he just says it, and coincidentally, the munj gets better. So the manj is now, it's fine. And this is obviously a coincidence. It's not that the person actually... So he goes to the Pir Sahib and he says, Tusan kere Pir ho. He goes, that look, he goes, Unna ki mein akhya, and they made one dua, the manj theek hoi gayi. So, you know, you guys, you Pir Sahibs, this and that, this is a scam. You've been going on for weeks and months and nothing. So the reply, people, the iconic reply, and this was the part that, this is why it had to be quoted verbatim. The Pir Sahib said, "Theek hai, gal tusani vi theek hai, par maran to main bhi nahi deta." He says that, you're right, but I didn't let the buffalo, I didn't let the munch die either. You gotta give me credit for that I held on to it. So that's the quote, huh? Par maran mein bhi nahi deta. So that's the point, people. So next time you're getting scammed, keep these things in mind. This one not nice, my friend. This one not nice. Right. So let's take some questions by the peoples. You know, the peoples. Somebody's asking, what is your view on Yasir al Habib? Yasir al Habib. Who is Yasir al Habib? Oh, are we talking about the Shia Yasir al Habib? Or is there somebody else? Or I don't know. If it's the Shia one, alright, somebody all the way from Kerala, ahlan wa sahlan wa marhaban bik. Right, so if it's the Shia Yasir al Habib, the one that's coming to my mind, then he's really an extremist who I don't really like him at all, to be honest with you. I can't really stand him. And he just spreads hatred. And as far as I'm aware, many Shia brethren that I'm aware of, they don't like him either, and they consider him to be a nutcase. So it's like, even, you know, among Sunnis, you're going to get some extremists. ISIS will claim to be Sunni, but I mean, that's what you're going to get. So I mean, in the Shia, you're going to get the same thing. It doesn't mean all Shia think like that. Right, so, right, should Scotland be independent? Wah. You know, it's a tragedy. I don't actually... I don't think it should be. I think there should be a United Kingdom, UK, but it's a shame the way the UK is heading. You know, with this whole Brexit thing and Boris Johnson and the whole thing, and it is a shame. So it may be that this coming year, Scotland asks for another referendum, and, well, I don't know. Let's see. What would you consider the limits of the Sunnah as Wahi? Right, so you see, if you look at the Usul al-Fiqh books, many of the ulama will write this, they will discuss it, it's in Jam' al-Jawami', it's in many of the Usul al-Fiqh books, that the Prophet himself is a legislator. And he legislates. And it's to the extent, this is the Maliki madhab as well, the Malikis predominantly accept the Prophet as a Sharia. But what we accept as well is, as it says in the Usul text, وَيَجُوزُ أَن يُقَالَ لِنَبِيٍّ, that it is permitted for a prophet, basically, أُحْكُمْ بِمَا شِئْتَ يَكُنْ هُوَ الصَّوَابِ, that whatever judgment you give, that will turn out to be now the correct position. Meaning that many actions within the Sharia have, as far as the objective Sharia is concerned, that they're arbitrary. They have an arbitrary existence. But the Prophet may have ruled for them based on circumstances. And hence, it would, if the day and age would change, then the Sharia would mandate that the ahkam change. So that's something I hope that makes sense, and that is what I call trajectory hermeneutics, and other people call it trajectory hermeneutics. And I feel that that's something, huge and very important within the Sharia. Cool. All right. So let's. Hey, Mufti, is car finance and mortgage haram? I've got a very detailed video explaining that things like mortgages and loans and all this stuff are not haram in this day and age. I'm just also opening up the. Right, so that these things are not haram. And the reason being, people, I'm just bringing up your questions as well that you've put here. The reason being that the whole concept, not the concept, but money with a capital M has changed as an entity drastically over the centuries. So if you go back to to the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, money, there was gold and silver, but even then a huge amount of sales were being done as barter. People were bartering wheat for barley, dates for rice or whatever it is, and this is how people used to buy and sell. And there was gold and silver as well, but gold was incredibly finite. It's still finite today, but in that day and age it was like a zero-sum game, that a certain region only had an X amount of gold. Now the only way you're going to bring new gold in is you're going to raid a neighboring kingdom, or you're going to get them to pay you so many taxes. It's not going to otherwise happen. You might stumble upon a tiny bit of gold here or there, dig it up, but substantially the game is rigged. Now, you couldn't just make gold out of thin air. So, hence, Allah says in the Quran that about wealth being trapped. So if you took interest, if you took money from someone and they were charging you compound interest, you see, where is that gold going to come from? Because that whole market, that whole region only has a finite amount of gold. This then changes about 200-300 years ago as wealth becomes demineralized and it moves on to paper. And all of a sudden people now, and that becomes wealth 2.0. And now, and so all of a sudden you could kind of weigh down on a certain amount of wealth with a lot more, so the banks could loan out a lot more than they possess, which allowed for more wealth to be in distribution, which gave rise to more prosperity. Then came the digital age, which we are in, and this is wealth 3.0. So now literally wealth is created out of thin air, but it gives rise to a huge amount of prosperity. The concept of greed has been reshaped by people like Adam Smith and other economists. The fact that giving back to a society which today seems like common sense, if you travel back in time 500 years, it would be so difficult to find anybody that would see that as common sense. Today if you ask someone, oh, here's a person who's opening a shop in this, let's say, neighborhood, what are the benefits for this? And you'll say it's common sense to say, well, the more money he makes in that business, he will feed back by employing people in that community. He will then spend on that, on that shop, which will then spend in the economy. So for example, he needs to add an extension to the shop. He needs to hire builders to do that. So he's paying builders. He needs to paint. So he's got to pay some shop and buy paint. All of this money is trickling back into the economy. Now this today is common sense. I'm sure teenagers know this stuff. Now, if you traveled back in time, pre-Adam Smith and the economists like that, this is not common sense. People would not have thought like that. So the whole world has changed. And then today, with cryptocurrency, this is now wealth 4.0, people, where it is decentralized, it is not owned or controlled by the banks, it is not controlled by a government, it is peer-to-peer. I mean, it is amazing, it's mind-blowing, honestly. I am so in awe of what is going on. I just feel that this is history in the making, people. But yeah, so if you can watch my clip, it's about half an hour or 40 minutes long, and I speak about mortgages, loans, and things like that. Okay, right now. Oh, right. Alright. Right, translate Surah Lahab. I've said this before, that look, what books have you found that describe pre-revelation jurisprudence? Sorry, I didn't get the rest of that question. But, right, damn, this is moving so fast. Let me see if I can go back in this. And yep, I can. Surah Lahab. Okay, Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab. Now, I've said this before. I don't feel that this this surah is to do with Abu Lahab, or the actual Abu Lahab wasn't his name, but this is what people started to call him, who was the uncle of the Prophet. I don't believe that, just as Muslims started to call Abu Jahl, Abu Jahl, but I mean, that wasn't, his name was Amr, and his kunya was Abu Hakam, but people started to call him Abu Jahl. So that name kind of stuck with him. So Abu Lahab, who we call Abu Lahab, the uncle of the Prophet, was this surah revealed about him. Tabbat yada abi lahab. I feel that this surah was generic, that it was general about people who are so lured in by the dunya that they prevent the voice or attempt to prevent the voice of good, and that this was generic Abu Lahab, the one with this flame, and the flame can be symbolic for this rage, and it can also be about the one that is kind of lured in by the flame, that kind of glowing flame of gold. This person who is so addicted to this dunya, in that sense that he endeavors to block out the voice of good. So this verse is about each and every one like that. So it did apply as well to who we call Abu Lahab, but I don't personally believe this was revealed just for him, or that it was necessarily by necessity addressing him. That's my thoughts on it. Somebody is obsessed with Ali Dawah. What are your views on Ali Dawah? Right, hey Mufti, what's your opinion on marital rape? Say it's allowed because a wife can't refuse sex. Right, okay, let me come back to that. I've got a detailed video on that anyway, but not a video where I'm going, all right guys, this is how not to do it, okay? Now, don't do it like this. That's not what I meant. Right, so I've not got an illustrated video, an enacted video. I've got a video, an informative video, where I'm an educational one. Right, so, right, this Ali Dawah thing, I mean, I don't know really what to say. Somebody's asking, what do I think of Ali Dawah? I've spoken before. I mean, I've met Ali Dawah on maybe 2 occasions, or maybe 3, but I think, but a few occasions. And I do feel that, look, that he's obviously very keen, very passionate about things. I just feel that, unfortunately, you see, people passion, if it's not controlled by knowledge, it can lead people astray. So I feel that the things they say sometimes harm Islam much more than, exponentially more than any good that they do. The kind of things like, when they'll get into arguments with people like in the past, Tommy Robinson, and say, yes, so what? The Prophet, raped. Or they'll say, okay, he never raped her, but he took her and then had her, and so what? And, this kind of stuff, I find it like very wrong. I find it very, unfortunately, it disrespects our Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and things like this. So I'm very against this, people and da'wah. I've said before that I actually feel that the greatest thing we could do for da'wah is stop giving da'wah. Honestly, right? I don't see the point in this kind of da'wah that people do. Like, what is the point? Like, seriously, what is the point? Because people say, yeah, you spread the message of Islam, but do you though? If anything, you kind of attract strange people to the faith who then just, sometimes you think, are those people, do they even bring any goodness to the faith? Because the kind of people that get attracted to that are usually people who are very weird anyway. Not all people, I'm not saying all, but the people who are attracted to that kind of da'wah, they usually have an oddity about themselves, and then they do all this strange stuff. So you see a lot of these extremists were just converts that, you think, well, okay, so, I mean, they're free to embrace the faith, don't get me wrong, but, it didn't do any good to Islam, it just did more damage. And I feel that, if we just live our lives and just live up to Islam, that is the greatest da'wah you can do. You don't need to go around and say, be Muslim, be Muslim, be Muslim. That's my thoughts, honestly. I don't feel that. If, I've said this before, if people giving da'wah were the likes of, people that I could have faith in, then I would be absolutely for it. People, we spoke earlier on about Allama Javed Ghamidi Saab. I think he's a legend. Obviously he speaks Urdu, but for the Urdu Hindi speaking world. But in English, people like Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, fine, people like that. But these are not the people who are giving the people giving da'wah are these other people who stand in the park, in Hyde Park, or on these street corners and things like this. So that's my thoughts. Right, now coming back to the other question. All right, so I have got a detailed video. What's this? Right, yes, please. Somebody's saying about the Iranian Revolution. Iranian Revolution. Abhe yaar, calm down, zara shant ho jaiye, shant ho jaiye. Right, so Faizan Bhatt, calm yourself down, otherwise I'm gonna have to put you in timeout. Right, so I'll speak if I remember. I'll speak about it. Okay, so right now, yes, this thing about marital rape, it's utterly unacceptable in Islam, and it's not true that the angels curse a woman and things like this. These hadith are not sound, and I've got a detailed video on this. Do watch it. That is that marital rape is haram in Islam. So if you just Google those, I mean, YouTube those words. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed already to my YouTube channel, then abe yeah, what are you waiting for? Seriously, look at that. What are you waiting for, people? Subscribe, god damn it, subscribe. Yep. So yeah, so these things are utterly unacceptable, right? You cannot, you cannot be. Let me just put this on there, right? You cannot try to justify these things through Islam. It is unacceptable to do that. Okay, to say that, to force someone, to blackmail someone into having sex, and then saying, you see, the worst part is that what they justify it with is saying that if you don't have sex with me, they say God is going to be angry with you. Well, that's what we call confidence. Even God is going to get upset. कि यार ये मूड खराब कर दिया इसका. Wallahi, the people. This is what happens when you have your dumb share of retards within this religion. So that is utterly, absolutely not true. Okay, God is not going to get upset. God is not going to get angry because you didn't get to have sex. That's not how the wrath of God is. Oh God, man! The guy who must have made that hadith up. Can you imagine? He's like, look, come on. Do you know what's going to happen? Come on. Well, God's actually going to be angry. Oh, that is one next level of confidence. Yeah, so that's absolutely not true. Look, so the thing is that you have to understand, people. That said, look, I do always, I've spoken about this topic before. I've got a detailed video clip on it. I've said that, look, naturally, in any intimate relationship, sexual intimacy is going to be a core ingredient. And when that is, let's say, jeopardized, or it's being manipulated, or it's being instrumentalized. So, for example, people, they withhold sex, they do these things to, let's say, to inflict some kind of suffering on the other person. All they're simply doing is destroying that relationship. If that is what people are doing, and really there needs to be an understanding between people. Now, that's the most important thing, a kind of understanding. But at the end of the day, I've said before that I'm sure there's always in life, people are always compromising or being motivated by one another to do things or to participate but what is not the case is that God is getting angry. That is not the case. So I would just say that these things are personal things that you guys need to resolve yourselves. You need to really think about the relationship. Maybe that relationship isn't for you. Maybe that's if that's the situation, maybe these are telltale signs that you need the exit for either couple. But what it isn't is the wrath of God. That's what it isn't anything to do with God. So, yeah. Right now, right now, We live in crazy times. Yep, we do indeed. We do indeed. Right, people, with that, we're going to be approaching. Let's share some words, some thoughts on 2020 coming up, people. Now, what I'd like to say is that this is a great time. There's a social spirit to kind of reflect, to kind of set yourself new goals, to set targets, objectives that are actually, feasible, ones that you can actually achieve, inshallah, or at least set out to achieve. This is the time, people. And what I would like to say is that look forward, look ahead, look upwards with great optimism. The hadith teaches us that أَنَا عِنْدَ عَبْدِي كَظَنِّهِ بِي, that Allah will treat his slave as his slave anticipates. This, in another rendition, is what people have termed things like the laws of attraction in the universe. Be optimistic. I'm telling you, I don't know why, but I sense a great, in these last few weeks and coming up to a new decade, a new year, I feel a great spirit of optimism. I don't even know why. I honestly don't, but I mean, okay, I've got some idea, but I don't know exactly why, but I do feel this great spirit of positivity. And I think it's really, reinvigorated me. And I would say set these goals, if they're goals about your health, for example. If it's about, for some people, I know a lot of people, they always want to do things like go to the gym. Go to the gym. I mean, it is possible. If you wanted to, if there was health issues, you wanted to improve your health, improve your physique, or improve certain things, do it. It is now, people, that this is the time. Right? Life is not, it is 90% of life is just turning up, just being there. And then the rest is that determination. So you can do it. Don't be undermined. Don't be kind of like low-spirited. If it's, if you've wanted to embark on some business trip, business kind of venture, some entrepreneurial kind of trip, metaphorically speaking, do it if you can. I've always encouraged, people around me who are my friends, family, whatever, people like that, I've always encouraged people to try to become entrepreneurs. I've said, not when I say always, in recent, so many, in the most recent decades, or at least this last decade of my life, I've said that, look, business is the way forward. And it doesn't have to be big business, in the sense that you don't have to think like, people say, well, what can I do? Oh my God, I'm like this. I'm like, just think out of the box. And it doesn't have to be like you have to go open a restaurant. I mean, I'm sure you can do that, but it doesn't have to mean that. Nowadays, there's so many things. You could be working from home. Just think about what you're good at, or it's opportunities. You will start to see opportunities in everything. I mean, just think about this for a moment, that look, I mean, you can't see much here, but every single thing you can see. I mean, whether it's this, whether it's what it's been varnished with, the actual shelves, the books, the casing, the piece of paper, the way these have been bound. I mean, there's not even much here besides that. This phone, this table, drink, anything, everything we are seeing around us. I mean, you can't see the carpet, the kind of seating I'm sitting on. It was all at one point an idea. in the mind of an individual. They put that idea to the real world, and what you're seeing now is its fruition. So it is definitely possible, whatever you're thinking, you're aspiring to. It may be about learning, it may be about developing yourself. You know, if that be the case, then do it. You know, maybe it was about learning a language. Maybe it was about learning Arabic. Maybe it was about learning something else. I tell you, Arabic is a beautiful language. It's an amazing language. I would say to people, if you've not learnt Arabic, learn it. It's not going to take you that long. If you had begun in January 2019, now you would have known Arabic. It's as simple as that. And the amount of technology we have today, you can get onto apps, you can get onto websites, you can use things online. You can nowadays, you know, I'm studying Spanish, and what I do is when I'm watching things on Netflix or other things, I always put on the Spanish subtitles. I actually look out for Spanish stuff to watch. And so this is an example. You can learn. Maybe you want to learn something practical as science. Maybe you want to learn Islamic stuff. You want to study hadith. You want to study fiqh. You want to study these things. If you want to study fiqh, then what better than the School of Medina? I've already got some courses on YouTube. I've got a beginner's course, Ashmawiya. I've got an intermediary course, The Foundations of Islam by Qadi Iyad, the great legend of Muslim Spain. I mean, the world is your oyster, people. But what I would say is that look back. I don't know how old people are who are going to be watching this. But if you have lived a certain amount, I mean, obviously, if you're going to be something like 18, then a decade ago, you were only 8. Which, wow, you know, when I think about it, because Layla, my daughter, is 8. And so, but if you've lived considerably longer and you can remember back to the last decade, just think about it. I mean, when I'm just sharing with you in this last decade, the amount of things I've been through, my views, the way they've changed exponentially. I mean, they've, you know, there's been an explosion of thought. You know, all these openings, if I can say that, whether it's been on things in the Quran, very difficult questions, they've all really just unraveled to me in this last decade. I've discussed things about miracles within the Quran, the voice of reason, evolution, science, quantum physics, psychology, finished my psychology degree, all of these things just within this last decade, you know, involved in different businesses, part of, in the past, I mean, I suppose early this last decade, teaching profession, just learning Spanish, doing all of these things when I'm just thinking about them. I mean, for me, both of my daughters were born within this decade. I mean, it's so much when we think about it has happened. And when you think about it, I'm talking about you individually thinking about your own life. That, you know, just take a moment and let that kind of sink in. That, wow. And let it, you know, let your life be colorful like that. Let it be an immense amount of memories. Right. But at the same time, don't let your memories eclipse or be greater than your dreams. Still dream as well. Have ambitions. You know, you can do that. And during, I mean, maybe when you're thinking back, some of you have been through some difficult times. Maybe, I mean, some people may have overcome illnesses. Some people may have lost family members during this last decade. Some people may have gone through personal struggles. They may have gone through divorces. They may have got married. They may have There may have been so much going on with certain people, but this is life, people. I had my vacation. When I think back now, my incarceration, that whole experience. In fact, it's so shocking that the whole thing, I almost see part of life as pre and post. It's like 9/11. Everything is, before or after 9/11 almost. So, in your own way, think about your own life like that. And a decade has been, and now we are embarking on a new decade. Think about it. At the beginning of this decade, most of us were probably never on Facebook. We were not on probably social media. Social media wasn't as powerful as it is now in 2010. So, and where will we be in 2030 if we have life? But and with that, I would say, just emphasizing this thing that, look, I've said this before, that psychology has shown us through longitudinal studies that the mind, it compresses memories. Okay, so repetitive things are kind of crushed in and it's almost compressed to save space, if you like. So if you're going to work every day, and I ask you that, okay, I want you to think back to, let's say, I don't know, December the 3rd, and you're going to work. Describe to me your journey to work, your route to work. Now, unless something exceptional happened on that date, you won't be able to remember it. You'll remember going to work, but you won't remember that specific day, because memory doesn't work like that. So when things are mundane and monotonous, the mind will compress them. Okay, it's almost like a space-saving kind of mechanism. Now, what we don't want to do is kind of have our entire lives compressed. So variate things, do things, pick up skills, learn things, embark on endeavors, make new friends, do different things. So I feel that this is really so important. And I want to stress something here. This is really important, that you see, we as human beings judge ourselves by those around us because we're social creatures. And that is inevitable. But just be wary. Know that what you see on social media, most of it is very unreal. Okay. Some of it is real, but I feel that, and this is why I'm, not, even though I use social media and I do like it, but I'm simultaneously very aware of its kind of side effects. If you stay on social media, the way you become glued to it, like for an hour or two, and you come away, it actually, you can sense that how this can trigger depression in people. Because you see, what happens is, unless you're living an exhilarating, exciting life, all you see is all these things at once. And a lot of them are not even so, a lot of them are not genuine. See, this is the problem. So me and some friends, we got into this discussion about what's the big deal. If people are, for example, filtering things, or they're doing things, or what's the big deal? It's still them. But I felt that the truth is, in many of these cases, they're not actually doing these things. People do things just for show, and they don't live like that. It's different if they did, and they're just being vain, or they just like to show. That's up to them. It's their life. But people will buy clothing, take photographs, and return it. You see, this is actually, I'm not making this stuff up. This has been documented, that so many people are like buying clothes from catalogs and different kind of outlets, and they're just wearing them to take some photos and returning them, just so they can put these on and this isn't like a total one-off thing. So this goes to show that obviously our virtual lives mean more to us than our actual lives. So I wanted to say that don't look, participate all you can in social media, all you want, sorry. Participate all you want. But make your real life carry meaning, not just your virtual life. And I would say, and you don't need to take this part, you can throw it in the bin, but I would say, let there be some mystery to your life. You know, you don't need to reveal everything to people out there. I personally don't, and you know, this is just how I see life. But I mean, maybe people that are watching me will see it differently. But I would say that let there be some mystery to your life. That, you know, not everybody needs to know everything about you out there. So these things, bi'idhnillah, you know, inshallah, have tawakkul. Great things are yet to come. I wanted to really share that with you guys because I feel that yes, some people were saying that, look, everyone's life seems better than yours and it's depressing. That is true. You know, sometimes you come away from here and you can feel a bit down and you can think, bloody hell, like, why am I feeling a bit down? And you can see the impact these things have. And I'm not trying to say that this is evil, evil, evil. I'd just be a hypocrite if I was saying that. But I'm just saying, be wary, that's all. You know, you don't need to do something for yourself. So, but it is important to kind of to set some of these goals. But guys, be optimistic, okay? It's another day, which means another opportunity at whatever it is you're trying. So cool. All right, now let's take some other questions. That person's still going on about the Iranian Revolution. Wah, 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 mange, mange. Right, so the Iranian Revolution. Let's discuss that another time. But in brief, I think, you know, like many revolutions, it was hijacked on the back of the People's Revolution. See, the problem is, those of you that get a chance, you should listen to the book. Oh, I say listen because I listen to a lot of my books through things like Audible. But you can read, sorry. But up to you. But you should take a look at the book, Homo Deus. Now, it's a continuation, it's a sequel to Sapiens. But this thing is discussed in there about revolution. You will find that often revolutions are always hijacked by small groups of people, but small groups who know how to organize themselves. And the same thing happened in the Iranian Revolution. You know, there were many people that were kind of part of that huge. It was a huge secularist kind of participation and other things. But because the Islamic group was better organized, they took over. Take Egypt as an example. It was really the people that kind of came out and did that. But when it came, once the old regime was disposed of, the only people that were actually effective enough to organize themselves and be in a coordinated effort were just two. One was the Muslim Brotherhood and the other was the army. So the Muslim Brotherhood stepped in first, then followed by the army. But such is life. You know, this is because this is the story that you'll find. I mean, take a look at the Russian Empire when it was overthrown, and it was the people's kind of movement. Yet who stepped in? The Communist Party. It's just a small group of people, but who are well organized. That's all. It's this spirit of organization that gives Homo sapiens our immense power that we have. Cool. So, right now, what are the proofs? Oh, wasn't tabaruk almost a form of tawassul? Right, okay, I'll answer this. Tabaruk. Tabaruk, like seeking barakah. Okay, here's my hypothesis, people. Obviously, I can't prove this. But my hypothesis is that I feel that the way, tapping back into our earlier discussion on quantum physics, I feel that the... Right, sorry, just one moment. Right, I feel that the quantum world, just as when we view it, it collapses, right? In a similar sense, that it doesn't have a reality. It kind of, the moment we observe it, the quantum world collapses. One can argue in some ways, does consciousness give rise to reality? I would argue in some ways I feel it does. And barakah is one of those things. I feel that some places have a sense of barakah because of a collective consciousness of reverence and this kind of this attitude of this holy attitude and sensation that people are experiencing. Because a person has that, you have a social network of consciousnesses, if you like, that are revering a particular area, or let's say a particular place, which then gives rise to that atmosphere. So people can actually feel it by being there. That, wow, there's actually a... Hence, you can sometimes go to certain places, they might even be non-Islamic, but they may have a sense, just something in the atmosphere. And I feel that that is what gives rise to that, is a collective kind of consciousness of that place by those residents or inhabitants. So yeah, so I don't know if that makes any or in the words of Ghalib, बक रहा हूँ जुनून में क्या क्या कुछ न समझे खुदा करे कोई. All right, people. All right, now let's you know what, it's been going on for a while. Let's see what is going on. What have I got for you guys here, man? What have I got here, man? What have I got? Okay, so shall we move on to
That's something.
Right, so people, let's move on to some masala. Some masala segments, then I'm going to leave you guys to it. It's obviously been very late. It's getting very late. Right, so part of the masala segment, and by the way, those of you that haven't already subscribed, do subscribe, yaar. Ab ka kitni martaba bole? You know, it's like, subscribe to my YouTube and Facebook and click the notification, yaar. And kuch nahi jata, like the videos, yaar. शर्मिंदा कर देते हैं आप. You know, it's like, is this something that has to be said? Right, so yeah, definitely do that. But let me just, all right, people, all right, now there's a hater I've got for you guys here, right? Here it is, people.
Every anti-Islamic person I've ever seen has subscribed to Mufti Abu Layth.
Oh, people, you couldn't make this stuff up, man. Let me just, one moment. Let's just see him. Let's see him. What is this guy has got a refutation video against me? Can you believe this? This guy has got a refutation video against me. It's called Refuting Mufti Abu Layth. I mean, for real. Let's just look at. I mean, just take a look at the wife beater vest. Am I the only one? Like, when you look at him, you know, the first thing that goes through your mind is, okay, I think we need to establish a safe word. Let's establish a safe word here. Just look at that, for God's sake. What is that? What is that? Oh my God. So, you know what? We gotta see, people. Then you're gonna say, why does Mufti laugh? It would be a crime to not laugh. Let's just see that again slightly, people.
Get something. Every anti-Islamic person I've ever seen has subscribed to Mufti Abu Layth.
Every anti-Islamic person he's seen, people, everyone has subscribed to me. You Gaddafi. You Gaddafi 2.0. Seriously, does he not look like Gaddafi? I'm not just being cruel, man. Come on, that guy looks like. I know Gaddafi was into his strange kind of wife beating, and here you've got Gaddafi 2.0 in his wife beating vest. I just like, oh my God. And this guy was saying, you know what it is? The clearest proof, which is, as you know, it's as bright as day, that I am a deviant, is that I've got an earring. Ya salam, ya salam. So, you see, these people have a problem with me. And I say, well, you know, I say to them, my message to them is, dear haters, please be patient. I've got so much more for you to be mad at. If this has hurt you, I've got bad news that it's yet to burn. Ooh la la. This one too much, too much. Speaking about too much, and why do we need scholars like moi? Why do we need scholars that are born in the West to answer the problems for people in the West? Why? So, let me take you, people, to... So, because people get all kind of like, oh my God, what is, what the hell? This guy saying, why is he wearing an earring? Somebody said, they said this here, let me share they saw me. I love winding them up. So this was what I had shared about have a blessed and happy new year. And somebody had said, looks like Ramesh from the temple. Oh. So I love winding these people up. So I said, just the look I was going for. Radhe, radhe. These people. But you know what? More importantly, folks, more importantly than all of that, is that why do we need scholars from the West? And that is because if we don't, we're going to end up with some of this craziness. Like right now, there's a scholar who's quite popular online, Sheikh al-Najd, Asim al-Hakim, right? So Asim al-Hakim, the all-wise himself, right, was asked a question about a woman who's found out that her husband has been cheating. So, now many people may attempt to answer such a question or such such a tragic experience, let's say, how to handle it, what advice to give, how to console that individual going through their time of difficulty. But many would fall short of great wisdom. but fear not, because because we got this one, we got wise sheikh here. People, what now? Let's hear the wise words from the sheikh himself.
That's something.
Right. So sorry. That's
he is sinful. He's committing a major sin without any doubt in it. But if the woman sees that there is a chance and a room for reconciliation, she's advised to take care of herself really well. If she's fat, she has to get her act together. She has to work out, go on a diet, slim up again so that she would be pleasant for him to see. And not only that, she should exhaust him physically in bed every single night or more, so that he wouldn't be even able to think about committing haram acts, let alone go and have relations.
So this Mejari is going through this. So the advice is, if you're fat, you need to get your act together. I mean, woman, what do you think you're doing, for God's sake, with all that weight? Are you eating on behalf of a continent? She needs to make herself pretty, for God's sake. Woman, don't you know that you just being in my visual field, the suffering that I'm going through, you're burning my retina. You couldn't make this stuff up, Let's just try that one more time, people. One more time. Okay.
He is sinful. He's committing a major sin without any doubt in it. But if the woman sees that there is a chance and a room for reconciliation, she's advised to take care of herself really well. If she's fat, she has to get her act together. She has to work out, go on a diet, slim up again so that she would be pleasant for him to see. And not only that, she should exhaust him physically in bed every single night.
Get your act together. You should please me, goddammit. Can you imagine the poor lady that's actually asked him this? It's like, get your act together. Why are you so ugly? It's like, gremlin. Oh my God, honestly, it's not a laughing matter, people. I do apologize, but I actually almost fell off my chair the first time I watched that. I was like, did he just say that? He couldn't have just said that. And it's like, you need to fix up, God damn it. Ah, ya salam. You see, this is the problem. This is the problem you get on following people like Asim al-Hakim, the all-wise, with his kind of wisdom. Guys, with that, whoa, is that the time? You know what? I think it's been... Wow. I think we got to start wrapping up. Guys, it's getting quite late. I got to start doing these much earlier. It just, you know, it just ends up, I always just end up getting late. मैं देर करता नहीं, देर हो जाती है. Allah, Allah, Allah. People, so with that, let's wrap this up. Any questions, feel free to reach out to me on social media. I am on Snapchat, although I need to use it more now. I've been quite lazy on it. Instagram, quite active on Instagram now. So if you message me, I do check the messages. It's easier to kind of leave. Sometimes I leave voice notes, so that's easier. So if you are messaging me on Facebook, you can message me on Facebook Messenger. That's easier. Guys, also, now you've got a chance to, as I mentioned before, rather, you can now support the fitan wa fasad. You can just go to my page and click become a supporter. There you go. That's awesome. Cool. And like I mentioned before, I'm releasing clips daily on YouTube, so do tune in to that, do subscribe to it, to the channel, like it, share it. Yeah, these are ideas. Look, even if you disagree with something, you can share it. I've just put up a clip today which I've discussed previously about who was Uzair in the Quran. Was it Ezra, as many people claim, or was it Osiris? So guys, with that, it's a wrap. Take very good care of yourselves. Till next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Over and out, folks. Have an awesome new year. Do set yourself some goals. And remember me in your kind du'as. And before I forget to mention that a great way to always just kind of recharge yourself, because a lot of people were asking as well. People asked like, oh, destiny and qadar and dua and these kind of things. Always a route that is always there is charity. Okay, in a hadith it does avert bala, tragedy, but it's also something that's not only immediately rewarding, but also it teaches you the art of giving. People, take very good care of yourselves. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.